Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Global Career Forum, the international online recruiting event organized for the MBA students from top business schools. We welcome you to today's online session with Innogy Consulting, and we have the pleasure to welcome for this live session our two keynote speakers, Oliver Riddle, who is the Managing Director, and Graham Dixon, the Project Lead at Innogy Consulting. As this is a live Q&A session, I would invite all participants to ask your questions in the Q&A panel on the top right side, and we'll convey them to the speakers. Oliver and Graham, a warm welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic. Yes, welcome to everybody. Whatever time zones everybody is in. We're in Boston, Massachusetts. It's a fine, not spring yet, late winter morning here. Welcome, everybody.
Excellent. So I know that you have an initial presentation prepared to kick off today's session. So perhaps we start off with that.
Sure. Super. So just as a way of quick introduction, I guess, from both Oliver so I'm just looking to see moving the slide forward. From Oliver and myself. So my name's Graham Dixon. I'm a project lead within Innogy Consulting. I've been with the firm now for probably about 7 years. And as the accent gives away, I started off life in the UK business before moving out here to the US to help support Oliver in the setup of our US practice. So really my background is before moving into consulting, working within the retail energy space, and then moved into our in-house consultancy, Innogy Consulting, to work on some of the retail projects that we have across Europe.
Yeah, my name is Oliver Riedel. I'm, as you can hear by the strong accent, German from background. I initially, in the beginning of my career, planned to stay 2 or 3 years in consulting. That didn't really work out too well, so I'm more than 25 years now in consulting. I worked for more than 10 years with Accenture in their financial services practice, and afterwards their utility practice. And then in 2005, decided to join a small in-house consultancy of a utility, which has been a fantastic ride ever since. That we've grown in Europe, that we've grown into Arabia. We'll talk about that in a short time. And now, since about 18 months, been starting in the US, which is a fantastic experience and a great story that we're trying to tell and convey to you today.
Perfect. So I guess just to give you all a bit of a background on kind of who we are and what we're about. So Innogy Consulting very much works on sort of the classic management consulting projects. So we work on strategy projects, transformation projects. We do a lot of work around capital market positioning, so for example, spinning out companies, doing initial public offerings, etc. And really focused in on the energy industry. So it's really our specialism, our background is what differentiates us from other management consultancies is that we really focus in on energy. And that comes from our background. So Innogy Consulting is part of a larger parent group, the Innogy organization. So Innogy is one of Europe's largest energy providers, and the consulting part of that really focuses in on the kind of the background and the expertise that we have as an energy company first and foremost. So what we try and do is we work with clients to help them master the transformation. So something which has sort of been a big change for us as an organisation has been the big energy transition that's taken place in Europe, particularly in Germany. So the switch from traditional thermal generation, so your coal, your nuclear power stations, through to sort of renewables, distributed energy, so things like solar PV, etc. And we've been working with our clients through that process over the last good number of sort of last 10 years or so on that energy transformation. So what we're working on now is to take that forward and take those learnings into new markets, in particular out here in the US, and what we're here to do in terms of what we've set up our US office to try and tackle the challenges and the transformation out here. So our portfolio of projects really sort of reflect that transition of the energy markets. We do on sort of the macro side strategy and transformation planning. through to the more operational topics like, for example, organization, human capital management, and then really getting into the weeds and the operational side on, for example, customer experience. So trying to really sort of develop customer journeys end-to-end, digitalize them. So everything from kind of the high-level strategy all the way through to operations and then everything in between. So this gives you a bit of a flavour, I guess, of the areas within the energy landscape in which we work. So we do everything from sort of generation projects, so that could be in a traditional coal or gas-fired power station, all the way through to the more modern stuff, so working in wind farms and solar PV. We then work through the energy value chain into transmission and distribution, so what we'd call grid companies, through to then, right at the end, retail organizations. So the guys that ultimately sell you electricity, gas within your household. So that's kind of the landscape in which we work, so the playground we work in, and we sort of offer management consulting services right the way along that value chain.
Great, thank you, Graham. So I'll talk a bit about the second half and what is really important for us as a company on the purpose that we do have. So we're not just another consultancy or another consultancy in the energy space, but going through and having been going through the energy transition in Europe has given us pretty much a good view on what we want to do, and that is our purpose of our mother company, Innogy, and now Energy Consulting, that we want to work with those energy leaders who are going through that transformation, who want to create a more sustainable, more innovative utility of the future. And I mean, all the Friday demonstrations that we see, especially in Europe, but which is coming over to the US at the moment, or the whole American continent, shows that as well, that we're on the right track there. So that is something that is very, very dear to our heart and to everybody and the 200 consultants that we have in Europe, to them as well, to do a dent in the old industry, to make something change and really happen. Yeah, so what else are we? So we are working at the same level as the top tier management consultancies, and we have been in the past working very closely or even partnering with the McKinsey's, Boston Consultings and A.T. Kearneys of this world. So we have the same strive for the quality standard that those top tier management consultants bring in. At the same time, we do have the expertise that on the energy sector that we know and bring in, and in our bags we have 50,000 energy professionals that help us whenever it goes really, really, really deep, and it also gives us a good example of where we've done most of the changes already and what we'll bring out there. And the third part is definitely we're not here to maximize the hours billed to a client, but we do want to help our client, and that's where our heritage as an in-house consultancy helps a lot in terms of, you know, we only had one client for a long period of time, so we really had to deliver a good project, a good outcome, and something that helped the client in the end, and it's just not another 100 hours billed to somebody. So just to give you an overview, I touched already on it, where we are, what we've done. Our core is coming from the core European markets with Germany, UK, Netherlands, Czech Republic, Slovakia. We started to go, and it looks very small here in Dubai, to tackle the Arabian Peninsula there. That's been going on for the last 3-4 years, where we've been working for the first time really fully external. We have a joint venture there with the Dubai Electricity and Water Authority. We're going into Saudi now on a fantastic project opportunity there. And then you see on the left side, and that's why we're here today, we have been starting to set up the Boston office for the last 18 months. It's been a fantastic ride so far, with all the ups and downs you have in a startup, really. And I mean, Graham can tell a lot of stories as well. Yeah, so we talked about the deep energy expertise, strategy consulting. That's where we come from. We do want to be close, and we do want to have local offices, and that's really important for us. Honestly, we are the only 2 Europeans here in the office. Everybody else that we've hired so far, we're about 10 people in the Boston office, is US, and we do want to have those local offices here because the markets are different. The basics are all the same. The electrons look the same way over here as they do in the rest of the world, but you need to be able to consult your clients locally here, and that's why we hire, and actually this year want to double the size of people we have, well into the 20s. So there's enough room for everybody to join us. Yeah, and then a couple of example projects that we have been doing in the past. I was talking about Dubai. You undoubtedly will recognize the top left corner. So we have been helping Dubai to build a strategy to become the greenest city on the planet by 2040. On the right side, you see we've been very much involved in reorganization and restructuring of our own mother company through the transformation. Who's been following the European or German energy market has seen that. There's other very interesting things. I mean, it's not only a transformation in the energy space, but it's also around the whole area of digital. So predictive maintenance in offshore wind farm is one of the poster child projects that we have to go in with data mining and data analytics to look at operations and maintenance and how certain patterns can be identified and help improve costs there. And then obviously kind of bread and butter projects like truly making sure that after acquisitions, the PMIs and the post-merger integrations work well. That's something that a lot of our people have been doing, that we will be doing on our own with our mother company the coming year. I've been doing with the Dutch utility for more than 3 years in the 2000s. Yeah, so that's us in a nutshell, and now we're excited to hear your questions.
Excellent, many thanks. We have our first question from Prem Chandra from Allen Business School, asking you, in your opinion, how has the global energy landscape changed in the last 10 years? And what are going to be the most significant trends for future energy markets?
Wow. Do we have any more questions for today? Because I think that'll cover it. No, I mean, this really depends on where you are. And even if we look back into Europe and which area look into, and I'll just give you one example back on the European slide. So if you look, for example, on energy retail in the UK, this is a cutthroat market in the UK. It's, and Graham knows it by heart. It's the energy landscape for retail has changed tremendously, and there's no margins to be made. It's just a cost play. At the same time, if you go across Europe, basically down to Czech Republic, where it's very settled, there's not too much churn in that landscape, so that is different. Then we can talk about generation, so renewables, wind farms. In the US, offshore wind farms is a big topic right now. We have seen generation scale PV, which now comes more to household PV in the US. So all those changes, it's different in country by country. And even in the US, if you look at that, Hawaii, as a lot of you might know, has a lot of solar PV on household, normal housetops, because there's just no space for generation size PV plants. So personally, for me, I've been in the energy space for nearly 20 years now. It's been a ride I would never have imagined, and it's by far not over yet. So everybody in the energy space will have, I think, a fantastic time if you're here for change, for transformation, and embracing new worlds and new technologies.
Yeah, and I think the only other build on that I'd add is that you're seeing new competitors come into the space at a rate which is completely sort of unseen in the energy industry for the last sort of 4 decades. So if I take the UK example, so in the UK we had 6 suppliers. We're now up to 80 suppliers in the UK, and that's in the span of about 3 years. And across sort of more internationally, you're seeing the likes of Shell entering the energy space. So this week, they've rebranded First Utility as Shell Energy. They've done a big acquisition in Germany as well. And then on the other side of the spectrum, so that's on the oil and gas side, and the transport side, you've got the likes of Volkswagen, who've just launched their first energy company themselves. So you're seeing new players come in, which makes it a very interesting, exciting place for us to work at the moment, because it keeps things interesting, keeps us on our toes.
Absolutely.
Many thanks. Next question is coming from Andrew Gargiula from IE Business School, who is curious to know if consulting services extend upstream past generation, for example, oil and gas exploration, production, geothermal exploration and production.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say it's, for us at least, it's very dependent on which part of the business you sit in. So to give you an example, out in Dubai being the kind of heart of oil and gas, I'd say certainly sort of one of the major hubs, yes, we will go out and do consulting projects for some of the oil and gas majors that are based out there. But it's very much based on a region by region basis. I'd say for us, at our core, we are a downstream consultancy, and I'd say the vast majority of our projects sit in the downstream business.
Yeah, nothing we really don't want to do, and Innogy had an upstream business, and we have been consulting them, so we had a good couple of a good couple of people who've been actually on platforms doing operational excellence consulting there. Yeah, so we did that, and I'm pretty sure we'll do that in the future as well. Yeah.
Excellent. Next question would be, what proportion of your client work is in-house versus external consulting?
Mm-hmm. Maybe I can take that, and that has been also a transition for us. We have been, I'd say, until 4 years ago, a pure in-house consultancy. So at that point in time, the RWE group, so the mother of Innogy, was a 70,000, 80,000 people company. And there was more than enough work for 150 consultants that we were at that point in time to do internal work. And again, going through, and a lot of you will have heard about the German energy transformation to go through that. But in not only our mother company, we were consulting them about how to change their business model, how to go through the transformation, but we did the same for ourselves. I mean, what consultants would we be if we not do it ourselves and lead? So we thought about, okay, what do we need to do next, and what is the next step in consulting? And not only look at what management consulting can do, but we're going into new areas about putting more skin in the game, for example, so to invest together with the client, and that's something that we do as well in Dubai, if there's interesting business ideas, and to put skin in the game, as you say.
Great, many thanks. Next question is from Ying Gu from Oxford Said Business School, asking if you have interest in battery industry.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think you can survive in the energy space if you don't look at the battery market as well, and especially as what roles battery are going to play, and not only from an EV point of view, but like Graham was just saying, Shell acquired a home battery or battery storage, home battery storage provider. This will play a key market role also in, if you look at rooftop solar, if you look at how to charge your EV, if you look at distributed generation, distributed resources, batteries are the key pivoting point, I think.
But the however I put on it, I think, is that it's going to be at least 2 or 3 years before there's anything really of scale that you see on grids. So there's a lot of hype about it at the moment. A lot of people like to talk about it at the moment, but not many people have worked through the full business model of it. So the example would be on electric vehicles. It'd be great to do demand-side response, where you've got someone's electric vehicle, which you can draw down the power, but actually understanding the customer proposition that sits behind that, where you say to someone, hey, you might go out to your car in the morning and it's got a 50% battery charge. That's not been fully worked out. So the engineers can say, technically, yes, we can do it. The grid goes, great, we can do balancing far easier, we'd love it, but they've not really thought it through to what's it mean for the B2C customer that's sat in their home. Actually, what's the value proposition to me? Why would I spend 10,000 of my own pounds to put a battery in my garage? There's lots of other things I can think to do home improvement on beyond that. So there's still some way to go on understanding actually what's the customer proposition on it for a B2B customer. That's before you even get onto the B2B customers.
Excellent. Tim Center from Johns Hopkins Carey Business School is asking about your future plans, expansion plans in the Americas.
Oh yeah, we want to grow. We will grow, and our plans for this year is to come well into the 20s in consulting. And as you might have seen, We've got 4 or 5 different job postings out there, so it's not only one job we're looking for in each of those categories, but honestly, we have multiple of those to offer. So if you do have previous experience in consulting, or if you just have general interest in consulting, you've worked in it or done an internship in it, we're happy to interview you on those different levels, again, depending on the previous experience in professional and academic that you do have.
Excellent, thank you. You mentioned previously about 10 people in the Boston office and 200 people in total. Could you give us, please, an idea of the relative size of the various offices?
Sure, I can take a swing at that. So I started off life in the London office, and that is about, I guess, sort of about 18 consultants, I think, all in now, they're up to. They'll be tipping over to 20 consultants or more by the summer. When you get out to the likes of the Den Bosch office, so the Dutch office, it's much smaller, so it's about sort of 10 consultants or so. Dubai, I'd say, is probably going to be sort of similar size to what we are aspiring to be by the end of this year. And then when you get to sort of the more regional offices in Germany, so your Berlins, your Frankfurts, your Munichs, that really, I'd say, whilst that is, you know, an office location, and we might have sort of 20, you know, consultants that might be based in those cities, it's very much free to move around Germany. But really, our head office has the largest number. Essen has probably about 100 of the consultants based in it. So that gives you a sort of a rough feeling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let me put one addition to that. We truly believe, like the other large management consultancies, that we do want to put the right people on the job, wherever they are. So if we do have a fantastic consultant in London and he's needed in Prague for a project, or in Dubai for a project, we will ship him there and bring him to the project. It's a bit more, I don't want to say difficult, it's a bit more costly if you do that across the Atlantic in terms of, you know, housing and everything, but we are truly an international company. We're striving to get there. So people that join us will hardly ever work in just one place. I mean, like it's common with the consultancy, if you join us in the Boston office, our clients are not only completely around the East Coast, but they might be in Houston, Texas, or they might be in Chicago, or just last week was in Columbus, Ohio with a client. So they are all over the place, and the offices are more a place where we form our culture, we form our local cultures, and where we come back for the Fridays to exchange with the colleagues, and where we live.
Excellent. Jamie from University of Bath is asking if you're also involved in the large-scale energy storage industry, for example, hydrogen, as this is a growing area.
We've looked at it. We didn't have a project yet on that, and that's part of, yeah, like you're saying, it's still a very developing industry. And as some of you might remember, before the big push for hybrid and EV cars, there was already a good size go at hydrogen cars. So BMW, for example, they for a long time have the 7 Series as a hydrogen car. We definitely monitor that.
I mean, we've got the old school stuff, I guess, as well. So the classic pump, so the chap that's from Bath, not far from Bath, we have a hydro power station. That's kind of old school pump storage in its most classical sense. So out in Wales, we have a number of renewables assets that allow us to have that flexibility on the grid.
Great, thank you. What would you say is the type of a person that succeeds at Innogy Consulting? What are you looking in terms of skills and behaviors in candidates?
Yeah, so let me start with a couple of things. So we look for people who have strive for high ambition and quality levels, and you want to deliver to the clients. An HR consultant once told me there's only 2 types of consultants that you have. It's either the one that has a very strong drive to help, to wanting to change and transform an industry, or it's the other one that's the puzzle guy. So you want to solve a problem. You really want to go and solve that and, you know, release the client of that problem that he has. So those are definitely the treats that you should go for. And again, the fun in working and transformation. Personally for me, and that's what we're looking at in people as well, is basically with every project you start a new job. You have a new chance to present yourself, to work in issues, and to yourself as well. I mean, it's every new project is a new challenge, and that's personally what I do like, but what we want from people as well that join us, so taking on those challenges.
Yeah. I think the only other builds I'd put on that would be, for us, we have a big, strong sense around feedback. We've got really strong feedback culture, and that everyone, every level, from our interns and analysts right the way up to our partners and even our MDs, are learning and taking feedback and open to feedback. And so I think being really enthusiastic and passionate is one side of it, and then on the other side of it, it's being kind of always sort of eager to learn and learn new things and take feedback on board. And if you can couple those two things together and do it in a collaborative way, actually you'll fit really well into our business.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. So there are several openings that we are today as well promoting through Global Career Forum, one of them being Engagement Manager Project Lead. And I wanted to ask you, Graham, if you could share us an example of a few assignments that people could be expecting in this role.
Sure. So I can give you probably my last couple of projects. So Project Lead is expected to basically run the project end-to-end. So you're responsible for day-to-day delivery of the project, and then really the step up above you is to pull in the partner as and when you need sort of sparring or client engagement. That's typically kind of how they tend to run. For me personally, my last couple of projects, one would be setting up a digital attacker in Europe. So in Europe, there's a big challenge around cost to serve of retail players. And so we looked at the cost stack of a utility, find that it sits somewhere around, I guess, sort of $50, $60 in terms of value. And we said, right, how can we get it down to $10 cost to serve? And so it was working with IT on the one side, operations on the other, and then senior leadership from sort of across the business to design the blueprint of what a lean attacker company would potentially look like. So that was my last project. To give you another one, I'll give you a lot less sexy one as a project. My project last year was out in Poland, and it was looking at how do you carve out a back office function from a grid operator and a retail operator and spin it out into a separate legal entity. Far less exciting project, working quite heavily with the regulator, but had its own nuances in terms of I really enjoyed working with the client. It was exciting to work in a new market which I didn't know very much about. And as someone with a slight Scottish accent, always great fun to work with colleagues who are confused at what you're saying 90% of the time, which was definitely the case in Poland.
Excellent, many thanks. Mentioning that, could you spend a few words, few moments on the company culture? What can people expect?
Mm-hmm. We truly believe, and this might sound a bit odd, but to have a strong culture. And the question around that, or why is it odd, is on a consultancy, where basically, you know, you have the old McKinsey rule, you're 5 days for the client, 4 days at the client, and 3 nights away from home, how you can do that. But we do have the culture of bringing everybody to the home office or the central office for Fridays, and where we've established, and from the company side also, put a lot of incentives in for people to come in, to share, not only from the company to the people, but between each other. Because, like Ryan was saying, it's learning so important for us, and that means also learning what other people see on their projects and what you've been doing there, and obviously to have some fun and let's face it, we're a boutique consultancy, and we will, I guess, never be 2,000 people. Yeah, if we continue our growth path where we want to be, it's maybe in my wildest dreams we're 300, 400 people, but we're still a smaller company in the family. So we do a lot of those family things. So we have basically 2 times a year we have big events where everybody comes together. For example, this summer we're going to Prague for the old company meeting, what we call the Summer Consulting Days, everybody meets everybody. So Dubai office is going to be there to meet the home office Prague, and the Boston office is going to be there, and we all be sharing and reconnecting or connecting to new people that have joined us. But that's not only it. There is a lot of events that are going out in the local offices. For example, in Boston, we have an offsite, what we go and do dumpling cooking on Thursday together as a team here to share some of the things we've encountered in the past months. We have a joint ski trip where a lot of the European and even some of the US people go to, which is in January every year. So I think it's a very rich culture.
Yeah. And I guess that the last I guess I'd build on it in terms of kind of core to the culture, and going back to my point earlier about learning, everyone in the firm is incentivized to do 10 days of training every year. So it's an expectation that everyone is performance managed on, have you done enough training within the last year? And then the other piece is you're also incentivized to do, it's 12 days over the course of the year of what's called internal engagement or internal work. So you're meant to go out and projects or areas where you're particularly passionate or interested in, whether it's about developing new business or coming up with a new concept for recruitment or what have you. Again, the idea there is you're spending time working with colleagues you wouldn't typically work with on a day-to-day.
Yeah.
Perfect. So just for concluding thoughts, what would be your advice for the MBAs who are trying to land a role with Innogy Consulting?
I guess around a lot of the features that we've talked about. So show us your interest in the energy industry, show us your interest in consulting, be open, willing to learn, willing to accept and work on feedback and show us that. I'd be saying be curious and passionate about what you want to do. We are really passionate. I mean, I would have never dreamt of being so long in that industry and so long in consulting, but I mean, it gets me out of bed every Monday and every day saying, okay, what's the next fantastic project? And in an industry where basically every single thing is being transformed and changed, I think that's a fantastic place to be.
I think I'd echo everything that Oliver said. I think the only additional build would be having that kind of passion for energy, because you could, the difference between us and working for an MBB or working for one of the big four, at the end of the day, you could go and get a consulting job there quite straightforward with an MBA. I think for coming into us, it's a slightly different value proposition. You've got to have some burning passion for energy, I guess. And I think also have a real interest in working in part of a smaller team, having that cultural bit, which would be slightly different to working at, I guess, McKinsey or Bain or a Strategy or an ATK.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you a lot, Oliver and Graham, for taking the time to be with us here today, sharing more about Innogy Consulting. So many thanks.
Sure.
To the candidates, the recording of the session will be on the event website within a few hours. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.